questions for Representative Willard. The juvenile justice code rework, I'm very appreciative of your work on this and those that assisted you. It's huge, and I know that it's an ongoing process.
Start up January 1st.
Right. Two questions. Are communities prepared to take care of the juveniles that will be coming back into our communities? I hear that there's some money issues in terms of being able to support that effort locally. And then my second question is, into the future, how are we going to address juvenile arrests? When a juvenile is arrested and they resolve their issue through the court, whether they're found guilty or not guilty, whatever, their arrest record still remains. Are we going to be working with that to where they just have citations and it doesn't follow them the rest of their lives?
I'll take your first part, and that is the funding issue. And yes, that is a concern to all of us. This past year, Governor Deal put $5 million in. We have $1 million in federal money, so $6 million was used as a form of giving grants to what we call the priority 20 jurisdictions where the greatest, we call it per capita numbers of youth come from. What we find out, they had nothing as far as any assistance as far as local programs. The CAB has programs, Fulton has programs, but they have participated in this because of the numbers that they have coming to the state level. So our governor has pledged that he will be funding further and plowing money back in that we saved in this program to be sure that there are appropriate community programs set up across the state. That is a state need. I had the honor of working with the committee that's set up by the governor on this program, and I think this coming year we'll see more money going into it than just the $5 million. The second part, that is a concern, which is the fact that when people are arrested, whether they're juveniles, yes, but also adults. Today's, with the Facebook and everything over the internet, you can find out everything you want to about someone, and when you have an arrest record that stays with you, it's hard to get it expunged. The state is looking into things that can be done to assist in expunging those records. And that is a problem because most employers start out right away looking for, if they're potential employers, do they have any kind of police record? It's much different what it was even 5, 10 years ago in that regard. So we've got to put some safeguards there. Thank you.
Anything else? All right. Next question.
Tina Wilkinson, I had a question for Tom about the feasibility study for the independent school district. Did it include an equalization payment? And do I understand that the CAB pays an equalization payment, something to do with the rest of the districts in the state don't maybe have enough funding? And what would Dunwoody have to pay? Maybe it's included already. And then would DeKalb County's equalization payment go down as other systems were forming within its borders?
In broad terms, and I'm not going to really get into the weeds with this, basically what shifts is we are a more wealthy community. So what would happen is more of our school funding would come from our property taxes and less from the federal and state funds. Those would be redistributed. DeKalb would not stand to lose as much, with us pulling out, because they would have an increase in state and federal funds to redistribute that money back to them in effect. The thing is, right now, and it's very much like with the city and the county government, we are 6% of the population. We're 14% of the school budget, and so trying to keep some of that back here. Now, on the same issue, you can look at it statewide. Gwinnett has 168,000 students in their system, largest system in the state. 10% of Georgia students go there. Yet Gwinnett receives money from places like Cherokee, places like DeKalb. So that's, and friends were well versed with the equalization formula. I'll throw that to you.
No, that's it. I mean, if you look at the Fulton County the tax digest, it's about the same as Gwinnett County's, the number. But then when you divide it by 168,000 kids versus 100,000 kids, Fulton County contributes, for lack of a better word, and Gwinnett's a receiver. I mean, that's 10% of the kids in our state go to school in Gwinnett County. So, again, I think down the road, the main thing for us, Tom said, is this constitutional question. And then we get into specifics down the road. We've got to get the right to do it first. And that's where they're at. And we've got to keep people not asking about what about my individual. down the road, not you, but down the road. We've got to focus on trying to get 120 votes in the House at this point in time, and then of course to go with the Senate. But that's got to be the emphasis. Okay? But it's a good question, but again, it's in DeKalb's case, it's not a real factor to the matter.
And I'll follow up with that. The study is online on the city website. You can delve down into the details on that, the methodologies and all that. And it was a very technical process. We had Dr. Reese from Georgia Tech and Kelly McCutcheon from the Georgia Public Policy Foundation did a fantastic job on the study. Also, at the risk of him taking all his time up, Rob Wittenstein, who sits a few people paces down from you, actually worked with those folks in doing that study and probably answering specific questions without taking up a lot of time.
So we rent him out real cheap.
Well,
I was told I have to talk really quick here. Other states are moving to assert their 10th Amendment rights to nullify unconstitutional activities of federal government, such as NSA, Obamacare, the EPA, warrantless drone surveillance, and NDA, indefinite detention. I'm curious, is this even on Georgia's legislature's agenda, and what is your position?
There is a bill dropped. Representative Jason Spencer, who represents down in the area around St. Mary's, right above Jacksonville, right there, has dropped a bill to us this year. We haven't had a hearing on it scheduled yet or anything like that. I don't know the time constraints, how much traction it's going to get. There are a lot of competing issues this year, but generally supportive of that. A bill is dropped, but again, we're not in session until tomorrow. But we have not met with him. Basically, he's from the other end of the state. We've not had that conversation yet.
And the other gentlemen's positions on this?
Well, I haven't seen it in the Senate, so I can't tell you. I know, obviously, most of us, well, a lot of us in the front room, we talk about Obama, who does this, probably are in favor of that. So I haven't seen the bill, so I can't tell you. I really can't comment on specifics.
And I'm aware of it. It's the kind of thing that usually comes through the judicial.
It'll come through their committee.
So
It'll come through their committee.
You know, when it gets to us,
We're not ducking it. We just don't.
No, but it was only dropped about a week ago as well. So
We always study these things very deeply. We will do so when the bill gets in my committee. Sure you.
well, we have come to the end of the legislative forum, and we have just time enough for a 2-minute closing statement by each legislator. And let's start off with Wendell.
Well, thank you for again having us to come visit with you this year. The session starts tomorrow. It's promised to be a fairly quick session because of the change we had in our election laws. So we were expecting to be out 40 days to run, but it may be ending around somewhere March 20th as opposed to up in April. The change we're talking about is the federal law that's already been on the books for a number of years. We have to finally acknowledge and recognize our timing of sending out absentee ballots required us to move forward our primary almost 2 months in order to give sufficient time. So we're going to have a very major change in what we've been doing in the past. Primaries used to be held in mid to latter part of July. They will now be in May 20th this year, so that's 2 months change. Then you'll have a runoff sometime probably in July. But with that in mind, we will get in there, do our budget, do the other laws that we can. People wanting to get back home and start campaigning, so we'll probably look to get out early. We're always accessible, we're available. We got telephones, or there's no private number for me or for the other legislators here, and we are live in the community, so if you have something that is of interest to you and concern to you, please get in touch with us and let us know what your thoughts are. Thank you.
I want to once again thank Dunwoody United Methodist Church for having me out on a Sunday. A couple of things. First of all, we do the legislation that we had last year that dealt with several issues at MARTA, including the privatization, is still alive and over in the Senate. We are probably not going to need to do as much with that legislation this year because MARTA is doing a lot of what it calls for on its own. But one issue that will come back up is restructuring the MARTA board a little bit to give some input to the cities in North Fulton and in DeKalb County as well. That's in there. The reason we do that is because the citizens in those areas have voted to take transportation policy power away from the county government and vest it in their cities. So it is time that the cities have some input in who serves in the MARTA board. It will also serve to pull that board in a more conservative direction. Another thing that hasn't been talked about, but I think is going to get some discussion in the upcoming legislative session, it may get some discussion in the context of Senator Miller's bill for the nonpartisan CEO election when that comes over to the House. There's a lot of discussion in the county right now about the internal auditor and the fact that this has come up at town hall meetings hosted by CEO Lee May all across the county, north, central, and south. The county commission has refused to bring on an internal auditor. Frankly, it's something that is very badly needed. And because of DeKalb County's unique CEO form of government, it may well be the kind of thing that we can make happen as a matter of general legislation. We don't always need to rely on a grand jury to bring to light the problems with our county government when a simple auditor will do. The county commission has the power to do it. They don't do it, and so perhaps we need to force that as a matter of general statewide law.
Take a little bit of a different tack. I want to thank the UFC for hosting us today. But elections coming up, one that's not been getting a lot of press yet, but it's going to come up in May, and it's pretty much going to decide that race. There are now 7 candidates to replace Sheriff Tom Brown, who is retiring to run for the congressional seat for Hank Johnson. One of those is our friend Vernon Jones. I urge you just to kind of follow that guy closely, because I always thought I'd see him on the other side of the bars. And that's a serious issue. The education issue is huge too. I'm pushing this embedded school system because when the governor, think about this, when the governor removed the DeKalb County School Board last year, you had 2 convicted felons serving on that school board, constantly getting elected, riding herd over $1 billion budget. That's scaring me. Again, doors always open down at the Capitol. I urge you to come down. If you've not seen the process, it can get pretty scary. And just the pace, I think this session is going to be interesting. Welcome to come down. Paige Olson's my chief of staff. You can call down my office if you want to come down and meet, or I just ask you to come down and observe.
You heard what Tom said about the schools. We've done everything we can in the General Assembly as respects to DeKalb schools, other than creating an independent school system. A Governor deal was wonderful to work with, quite frankly. Probably did everything that I asked. I can't thank him enough for that. But we can't control elections. And if these people get reelected, I'm afraid we'll be back in the same mess. So this is really the only option, Tom's bill, particularly with what's happening with the cluster concept. Another thing, when you think you don't matter and you have an idea, Bob Renee's sitting out here, and I normally would single him out. This idea of the property tax appeals, okay, this is a good thing for a lot of people. And the best ideas that we get down there, we don't sit around and think about these things all day, okay? We like to watch football games too. So when people come to us with ideas like this is how things get done. I don't want you to lose sight of that. The other thing is, with these elections, with the primaries being in May, unfortunately, we're now going to have about a 6-week runoff period. So you're not going to want to answer your phones, you go to your mailboxes, you're going to get hit with all this drivel in the runoffs. And just get ready for it. And the final thing is, the Dunwoody homeowners do have a meeting this afternoon at 2 o'clock at the Kingsley Swim Club. Those of you that live in DeKalb would like to attend. And then you can go talk to all your council members who I'm sure will be there with the issues that you like to bring up to them specifically. But again, we thank you all for being here. It's always a good event. And I thank my peer group for showing up, particularly Mike.